pressure's on the right place. I've got other things to worry about, and the teachers do too. And that's just an example. If a student, always in class, says, "Oh, Mr. Hovind, can I go to the bathroom? Or can I go back to my locker? Or can I go get some paper?" Things that they should have done during break time, but now they want to use class time, my time, to do those things, and it really was their responsibility. I saw in the first few years of my teaching that if I let a student go to the bathroom, there was a pressure on me. I was nervous about, "Oh, what's he doing out there? I hope he's not bothering other classes. I wish he'd hurry up. Come on, kid, get back here, man." The pressure shouldn't be on me to make that kid hurry. I shouldn't be the least bit nervous about it. He ought to be worried about getting down there, getting done, and getting back fast. So somebody gave me the idea to keep a notepad on my desk. If George says, "Mr. Hovind, can I go to the bathroom?" I say, "George, you know the policy. Every second you're gone from class is 2 seconds you spend after class sitting there in your chair. If it takes you 30 seconds to run down to the locker and back, you owe me a minute. If it takes you more than 2 minutes, since there's only 5 minutes between class, if you're going to owe me more than 2 minutes, then you have to make up the time after school you have to come in." And I would write their name down. George says, "Can I go to the bathroom?" I would say, "Sure." And I write down George, and I start my stopwatch. And then I keep teaching my class. If George runs or makes any disturbance or makes a spectacle of himself, running down the hallway, looking in other classrooms, making faces at kids or slamming the lockers, then it's triple or quadruple the time that he's gone. I tell him, and I let him know up front, this is the way it's going to be all semester, kids. If you have to leave my class for any reason, that's something you should have done during class time, then it's going to be double the time after class you owe me. You should have thought of that ahead of time. That's not my problem. That's your problem. That pressure ought to be on you to remember your books and things like that. Now, if you forget, yes, you may go to your locker, but it's going to cost you. That's what the utility companies do with adults. You pay your bill by such and such a time. If you don't, there's a fee added on, or they'll shut it off and rehook you up for another $100. They're not going to yell and scream at you. They're just going to simply charge you the fee. This is the way it works. Here's the punishment. If it's known ahead of time, it's no problem. So, things like that. If a kid is moving the desks, I found some of the kids want to kind of scoot the desks back toward the back wall. So, I put chalk marks on the floor and the carpeting. It wipes up easily. And at the beginning of the week, I would arrange the desks the way I want them and then put a chalk mark on the floor at the front left corner of each desk. And I could quickly tell, "Johnny, you've moved your desk. Put it back up to the line, please." And it was no problem. Or something on the ceiling. If you have suspended ceiling tile, you know that row 1 should start under this light or, get oriented. And you can quickly tell if they're gradually moving the desks on you. And watch for things like that. But the pressure needs to be in the right spot. Very frequently in my classes, as I taught 15 years, I would rearrange the seating just whenever I felt like it. The kids would walk into class one day and I'd say, "Well, kids, we got a new seating arrangement. It's on the board. Let's see, George, you're sitting here now. Kathy's here and Jane's here. Oh, I like the seat I had last time. Oh, we'll change it again sometime. You may get another one." But I changed probably about every 6 weeks, totally reshuffled the class. For several reasons. I was always trying to separate those that were talking or tended to goof off together. I always tried to separate those. And psychologically, it let the kids know Mr. Hovind runs this class. They had no say in it. I picked which seat they sat in. And it was just a subconscious psychological thing of letting him know who's the boss. And teacher ought to just reserve that or keep that as an idea. Just out of the clear blue, totally rearrange the seating. And put the kids up front, of course, that need to be. If a student forgets his pencil or paper, which is a common problem, "Oh, teacher, I forgot a pencil. Can I borrow a pencil?" I had a box of pencils that I got that I would sell them for 25 cents, which is a whole lot more than a pencil ought to cost. I didn't want to go into the pencil sales business, so I made it enough where they'd remember it. If they didn't have one in class, you had to either buy one, or I would loan them one, and they had to spend 10 minutes after school coming in, straightening up the room, erasing chalkboards. They had to work for me for 10 minutes. If they didn't have any money, they didn't have a quarter, I would hire them for 10 minutes for using a pencil for that hour, or paper, or whatever it is. So again, that's a little subtle way and a sweet and kind way to keep the pressure on the student, not on the teacher. Teacher should never worry about a kid having pencils or paper. The student ought to learn to be responsible and take care of those things. I tried to be fair on that, but consistent. If a student is talking in class, any disturbance in class, again, the notepad, just such a simple idea that somebody gave me. Very seldom did I ever even have to say, "Quit talking." If a student was talking, I would just look at him, get out my pencil, I would get quiet, I would stop what I was teaching, and just start writing their name down. Sometimes I wasn't even writing their name down. I was thinking of something else, writing it down, but they thought, "Oh no, his pencil's moving, He's probably writing my name down. And then at the end of class, after the bell rang, as they're headed out the door, I would say, oh, by the way, I need to see George and Pete and Sam. Would you stay after class for a minute? That way I took their time for the discipline instead of the whole class's time. And that served a double purpose, of course, keeping them after class. You know, they'd rather have you correct them during class so you waste the whole class time and get less taught. But if a student was talking in class, I didn't stop the class unless it got really bad. I would just take out my pen, and they soon learned, and I was trying to be very consistent at it. If a student's talking, I would just write down George, and then go back to the lesson. They knew what was going on. I would look at them, write their name down. Sometimes I'd warn them, George, there's once. If they got to 3, there was certain punishments, and I had a variety of punishments. Often I let them choose. I would have, you can either write out 100 sentences, I will not talk in class, and take them home and have your mom and dad sign them and bring them back. I always tried to have parents sign things when the kids got in trouble, had punished for something, and bring it back to school. And that was worse than death, having mom or dad sign it. That was usually plenty right there. So if a student was talking, just quietly write it down. And if the punishment takes place after class, it is much more effective on the rest of the class, psychologically. If you yell at a kid in class, they say, oh, big deal, they're just going to yell at me. But if you say, as the class is leaving, oh, by the way, George, will you stay here for a minute? I need to see you. The rest of the class is out in the hallway talking, oh, George is in trouble. And it's just a whole lot more effective psychologically, and it is better for the class and better for the teacher for you to quietly, one-on-one, hand out any discipline. George, you were talking in class 3 times today. I'd like you to write out these sentences, or go to detention for, 1-hour detention, or whatever your punishment is at your school. But get something consistent and something appropriate for the age level. So that was an idea for kids that talk in class or disturb, make noises, anything like that. Instead of always a detention, my idea was that they ought to have 1 or 2 choices, and after they got to a certain number, like 3 in a day or maybe 3 in a week, keep your pad for a week going, George, remember last Monday you got a mark and now you have 2 more? Sorry, George, you owe me 100 sentences, or whatever your punishment is. So that was good. If the homework is not done or is poorly done, again, I would have notepad, George, you don't have a homework done? Oh, okay, George. And I tried to constantly contact parents. First day of school, I would get a list of all my students and all of their phone numbers and all of the work phone numbers for mom or dad or both at work. And the kids knew Mr. Hovind has these phone numbers. And during lunch or during break time or after school or in the evenings, I would call the parents. You only have to do it once or twice per kid, and it stops the problem. Especially in a Christian school, the parents are paying the bill. Call them and let them know. My 3 kids are in Christian school, and when I get a call from the teacher, they know they have had it. It's big trouble at home. And you need to be consistent and support the teachers on that. The parents do, of course. But if a student if a dad gets a phone call, especially if dad is called at work, you leave a message, Mr. George, would you please call Mr. Hovind? And then say, Mr. George, look, I'm having a little trouble with your son here. He's been talking in class the last couple of days, and I've warned him. He's written sentences, but he's not getting the message. Would you talk to George at home, please? It's always, yes, sir, Mr. Hovind, I will take care of it. No problem. And the next day, George is a new boy. I'm not sure exactly what happens when he gets home, but I've never seen an example where there wasn't a tremendous attitude change when dad or mom found out directly from the teacher when you had to call. That's the best ally a teacher has, is the parents. The students belong to the parents anyway, not to the teacher. So keep the parents constantly informed of progress or lack of progress or problems. Frequently, with homework or with lost and found, I shouldn't say frequently, occasionally, I would have what I call a grace and mercy situation. You see, grace and mercy are different sides of the same coin. It's something that God does for us. Mercy is where you don't get what you deserve. For instance, we deserve to go to hell. In God's mercy, God says, okay, I will not let you do not go to hell. You don't have to go to hell. Say, oh, praise the Lord, that's wonderful. That's God's mercy.